other people join. It looks like our audience is pretty sophisticated. So we want to get going. We can go deep into what's working in this quarter versus last year. I know the algorithm has changed, and we all probably have interesting thoughts around that.
So yeah, Tim. Obviously, with with the rise of the machines, right? The rise of artificial intelligence and tools in the past year and a half, so can you tell us if our jobs as B2B sellers are safe or not? What should we be concerned about, right?
I don't know if you guys see my screen okay?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Perfect.
Let me see if I can get rid of some of this crap.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, it might hopefully goes away. So thanks for everyone joining. I know other people are going to be joining, and if you have a chance, go into the poll and vote. Right now, it looks like we've got some serious expertise on the group, so we'll try to dig into new stuff. But if I see that other people that are newer in their journey join, then obviously we can try to tailor it to them. And we're also have Q&A, so if you have questions, feel free to go in the chat and do that. Well, Jean-Michel, I appreciate you joining. Ed is also on. He's one of our guests for Friday. So if anyone is interested in email and freaking out about Google, Ed will make you feel better. He'll still make you do some work, but he does have some good tips that I'm sure he will share on Friday.
And I really appreciate the invitation here, Tim. And you and I have been working together for a few years now, and putting private corporate training and workshops together. And I guess now we're coming out to the public and trying to share some of our expertise and what we've learned to a wider audience. So appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Yeah, and just to give everyone a little bit of background, so both Jean-Michel and I come from more of a technical background. So his tagline is the LinkedIn rocket scientist. So he's legitimately a rocket scientist, and I came out as a programmer. And so we have a very analytical view to LinkedIn and to selling. Most of my background has been selling into the enterprise and hunting net new business. So I've used LinkedIn pretty much most of my career to either stay in touch with contacts that have moved to different places or get new business. And then Jean-Michel has been helping a lot of the people that you see on LinkedIn doing this stuff have been trained by Jean-Michel. So even though he's humble and in the background, a lot of these prolific sellers on LinkedIn are using a lot of Jean-Michel's methods. And if you get bored with us today, we are going to be doing this again on Wednesday as well as Friday. So I mentioned Ed, and there's another guy, Jeremy, who will be joining on Friday. So you don't have to listen to us the entire week. But today I just wanted to give you my perspective, especially around artificial intelligence and how I think about LinkedIn. And it'll be a dialogue between Jean-Michel, and I'm sure Ed will jump in as needed to bail us out. And then on Wednesday, it'll be more Jean-Michel with me asking him questions. So you'll get to hear kind of both of us from different perspectives. And then Ed and Jeremy will close us out on Friday. So the big thing that I like to start with is, artificial intelligence is hot, it's sexy, but how can you actually use it? And one of the biggest areas that I'm using for is research. So I'll give you some background on how I'm doing that from an ideal customer perspective. And then, if you're on LinkedIn, probably a lot of different ways to outreach on LinkedIn, or you see people doing cold email, cold calling. So I'll show you what is working from my perspective, and then how we can use commenting. I know there's a lot of concern around the algorithm and you're not getting as much reach, but commenting is a great way to stay engaged. And then Jean-Michel's got an app that he's used pretty effectively that Ed and I use, that he'll show us how that's working. So when you think about from an AI perspective, there's a lot of non-selling activity that we're all doing. And it's not just doing training, right? It's, a lot of research or things that we should be doing that we aren't doing because we don't have a lot of time. So AI is really helping us do that. And the way I've thought about AI is, how do I really minimize the non-selling time? My day should be back-to-back meetings. It shouldn't be writing summary notes. It shouldn't be doing research. It shouldn't be doing these other non-sales activities. So I'm using AI to reduce the amount of non-selling time that I have. And we'll go through some of those examples today. So Jean-Michel, our buzz last year, a little bit was around using AI for commenting and AI for, like generating our messaging. But what I found worked really well is, who is your ideal customer profile? So I don't know if you have any insights on how you're using that versus the traditional methods. People think, hey, create a custom message through AI and spam everybody. But this is really where I found AI to be the most powerful, and I'd love your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, actually, this is really a pretty fresh new idea for me, Tim. So I'm very interested to see what you're doing here and sharing. Because typically AI, when we think about AI, we think about marketing automation, right? So we can do more faster and maybe some personalization in the mix, right? And that's where we really need to move in the direction, I think, of more hyper targeting and hyper personalization. So your use of using AI for identifying your ICP is very interesting. So let's see some magic here, Tim.
So when I first talked to Jean-Michel, so I really come from an enterprise seller perspective, right? Whereas Jean-Michel and I, even if we're trying to reach a prospect, a lot of times if you're selling into smaller accounts, your ideal customer persona is one person in one account. So what we try to do from an enterprise selling perspective is focus on the accounts as your ideal customer profile, and then dig deeper into the personas of the different people and reach the different personas where they're at and engage them that way. So to me, an ICP is accounts. It's not persona. So that's one of the first early misconceptions I think people have. And so when you think about it from a company perspective, you may have really good success with a small to medium-sized customer. You might have a good industry that you want to be in, right? So I'm in tech. My ideal customer profile might be in tech, or you have a lot of experience in banking. And then it might be location. So Jean-Michel speaks French, so he may want to target the French market as well as the US market. I don't speak French, so it might be hard for me to target the French-speaking population. And then depending on the type of product that you sell or the service you sell, it's really good to understand the annual revenue and even the budget. And the budget could be, you're selling a marketing product. What is the percentage of the marketing budget? And is that aligned with your service offering for what you're doing? So you could get really, really, granular in this. And then you may sell a certain service where, companies are growing really fast or companies are shrinking. So what's their current headcount? What is their growth or their shrinkage? And then for me as a technology seller, it's always good to know, what technology are used, so I can go in and either take out that competitor or sell value add services on top of that technology.
What's pretty cool about this team too, in recent years, we've seen some very advanced filters for accounts in Sales Navigator. So, one of the things we like to narrow down on is really looking at companies with certain size in certain function of departments and whether they have been growing a certain amount in the past year. So that really allows you to narrow down your ICP account-wise, because, in your case, for example, you could look at a company that has a very small sales force and they're outsourcing most of that work to someone else, right? Whether or you can see that they have already a very large sales force, then there's an opportunity for training, perhaps, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I went through the companies that we're on, but I know one of the prolific agencies on here is around recruiting, right? And so if I have a zero headcount as an organization or I'm not growing, I'm probably not the right person that a recruiter should be reaching out to asking, am I hiring? Right. So if recruiters just spent a little bit of extra work on Sales Navigator and looked at that headcount growth in the department or in the company, they would probably be doing much better targeting of people that are actually looking to hire.
Good point.
So now let's talk about personas. So for me, the personas are really important because when you target a buyer, I use challenger sales. So, in every slide that I have, the buyer persona might be the technology person, the finance person, and then the business unit, right? Or the CEO. So for me, I want those messages to resonate on each slide with each of those persons. So the way I look at it is, from a job title perspective, a seniority perspective, years that you've been in the company. If you're an executive, you're probably not going to go and rip and replace something in your first 6 months or a year within the organization. So stop targeting people that are early on in their next role or their current position. At the same time, if they've been at the company for a long time, there might be services that make sense for someone in that role. And then similar to your ideal customer profile, I think it's great to target geography and industry. So if you're targeting enterprise customers, as an example, I know there's a number of AWS people that are on this call. You don't want to be targeting people outside the US if you're only going to get paid if it's a US customer. So dig in, and maybe the customer is headquartered outside of the US, but the role and the person you're talking to is in the US. And if you do a deal with that person, you'll get paid on that.
And one of the key elements you were showing here, team, is really, for example, years in current position. That's something we cover on Wednesday about critical events, and critical events. So if somebody has recently been promoted or hired from the outside to a position, they are much more likely. Number one, they are under a tremendous amount of pressure to impress their boss and the board of directors. And so number two, they are more likely to try new things, right? So there's a much better chance for them to be open to your value proposition, having a call with you and learning new things and trying new things, right? So those are very important indicators.
So this is why I like talking to Jean-Michel, because we both gave you conflicting information, right? So this is why knowing your buyer persona is important, right? So a good example is if someone goes in as a VP of sales, they may be open to bringing in sales training into their organization. They may not be, right? So this is why it's really important to understand the buyer persona. Or if you're an enterprise player and you know that someone has switched, so I used Amazon earlier, someone has switched to a new role and you know that they were a big client of yours or big proponent of Amazon Web Services as an example in their old role, and now you've identified, you can see that they've changed roles within LinkedIn, they're a big Amazon fan, absolutely hit them up if they're an Amazon fan and they went to their new role. But then there's also other times where the customer needs to be in the role long enough, or the budget cycle happens at a certain level, right? So if you're still in a state and local government, you may miss the turn for a big opportunity if you haven't gotten those big projects budgeted in the previous calendar year. So you've got to dig a lot deeper into your buyer persona, into your ICP, which I'll show you in a future slide on how AI can help you do that. So as Jean-Michel is starting fights with me, changing job is a great example. If they're posted on LinkedIn, so some of these people that post on LinkedIn are much more likely to engage with you, but they're also tone deaf to connecting and people connecting with them and pitching them. So this is where like our commenting strategy in the future will come in, where they're posting on LinkedIn, engage with them on the comments. If they're not very active on LinkedIn, you can maybe go and directly reach out to them and they'll engage with you once they do log in. Jean-Michel and I had a different opinion on buyer intent. I haven't had as much success with buyer intent on LinkedIn. I have had in other ways. But I'd love for Jean-Michel to share what he sees working with buyer intent and some of the tricks you use around, happy anniversary or congrats on the new job or happy birthday. Some of those things that you've used. I'd love to pick your brain on that.
Well, the buyer intent, has been released about, a year and a half by LinkedIn now, almost in October of last year, a year ago. And of course, they've been tinkering with it for a while, but it is really the same engine that is used for the ad campaigns, the LinkedIn ad campaigns. And I know they've added they're probably monitoring right now 30,000 different type of product, most of them being software systems or software products, right? But we can use them in other ways too. For example, and obviously you start with your ICP first, and I agree with you when you're going after companies. We start with targeting the right companies first. Then we find the decision makers at those companies, and we have tools to do that: download and upload data up and down from LinkedIn, so we can really refine our ICP and talk to the right people. And then you can activate the buyer intent on that group of potential buyers. And we're seeing an increase in 30% in outreach with that strategy. But I'll give you an example. For example, so if we're working with a client with an organizational leader specialist, right? He goes into a company and make sure the people are in the right place, they communicate well, etc. You're going to see, well, they're not really selling a software, right? But you can look at companies now, HR, that are looking for softwares, for example, on monitoring employee performance, employee satisfactions. So even so that client is not selling a software, he knows those companies are interested in improving something in the company, right? They're interested in improving the bottom line, the communication between the C-suite and the employees, right? The managers, directors. So it's still an indicator that they are more likely to be open to choose their value proposition. So some of the things we're saying.
Right. And so say they're looking at buying and, like a new ERP system and, you do, ERP consulting or you help do integration work. There's a lot of intel you can get from the fact that they're making a software buying decision. But there's also other ways outside of LinkedIn that like a Zoom Info or, these other companies give you other intents. But where I find the intent works really well for me is networking with other people. So in my case, if I talk to Amazon and I know that they're talking to someone that's looking at doing something, or they're looking at getting off of Oracle, or like that buyer intent is really helpful for me. And I'm using LinkedIn and I'm using my relationships and my interactions with people to get intel from other people that are potentially selling directly to that buyer. Then I am going in and using buyer intent from a LinkedIn perspective or Zoom Info or these other tools.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the more information we have, the better we do. So it's about leveraging every piece of information we can get our hands on, basically.
So early on in my earlier in my career, I went through a leadership training class, and we wanted to understand, this is outside of sales, more leadership, but what matters, to you personally, to your role, your organization. That could be you're in HR, it could be the company, and then our relationship. So when you're thinking about how you interact with your spouse, your family, your friends, your coworkers, you can also apply a lot of that methodology to your sales. So for me, I would ask them like in an awkward way, like what matters to you personally, or what matters to your role? Now I've gotten a lot more sophisticated. I just want to know in the back of my mind, do I get those answers asked, or do I get those answers answered? So some of the things that I think if you're early in your career and old, they had Sandler sales training where they talk about your pain points. I don't really talk about pain points. I talk about your problems, or Google talks about the art of the possible. Amazon talks about working backwards. Like, I talk about your goals. What's your top goals? What's going to hit your bonus? What's going to get your company to the goals that they need, or your organizational goals? For me, finding out what your goals are is a much more positive thing, and it also opens up a lot bigger opportunities. So find out what motivates them. It might not be what keeps them up at night, right? There's other things that motivate them. There was one person that potentially joins this call that closed $1 million deal, and the CIO hated their company. And the only reason the CIO bought was that she sold directly to the CEO and asked the CEO, like, what do you need from us? Or like, how do you get your bonus? And he laid out, this is how I make my bonus. And she knew that if she sold him this technology, he would hit his bonus. So then he goes to the CIO and says, will this company work? And the only thing the CIO could say was yes. If she had sold to the CIO, she would have never gotten that deal. But what mattered most to the CEO was hitting his bonus. It wasn't what technology the CIO did or didn't like. Other things around like your interests, like there's a lot of ability. Like if I know like you're into sailing, or I know that there's things that you're passionate about, like I can invest in you personally and get to know you and spend time with you on the things that you're passionate about that will help me build that relationship. Or if they're interested in new technology, or they're interested in AI, like AI, whether you're a technologist or you're in other fields, people want to talk to you. They may not even buy an AI product from you, but they want to talk to you to see what your perspective is on AI, and they'll meet with you, and then you can sell them a solution based on other things that they have going on, even if they never buy AI from you or buy AI from you in 3 to 5 years from now.
That's I found a cool humorous cartoon actually, team, on the subject. There is a bunch of kids just partying on a big yacht, and he says, how do you get that funding? We just put the name AI into the proposal, and it was sold. Anything AI would get funded right now. Then we figured out what we do next.
So this wraps up everything into the point that I'm getting to from an AI perspective. So use ChatGPT. The Amazonians are going to use Lex. Googlers will use Gemini. Whatever you want to use, I don't really care. But the goal is to act as a salesperson for your company, and you want to understand who your ideal customer profile is, put in the title, and then include all the things that I listed previously. And it will give you a laundry list of things. Then if you're really smart or interested, you can use like Excel or Google Sheet, right? So now you can go into a Google Sheet and just rinse and repeat this over 100 companies, 3 titles each, whatever your goal is. And now you can get specific data points. So when you cold call those people, or you're creating your messaging for people, you've got all those data points there. And this can get as granular as you want. So if your company, you have, this is what I sell, this is the value that we add to our customer, you can fill that piece as deep as you want, and you'll get more and more insights into your ideal customer profile.
That's pretty cool. Team, I'll definitely will have to try that myself.
Awesome. So I'm going to let Jean.
Found a way to automate that. We found a way to automate that model.
Yeah, there's a way to do it in Google Sheets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to let you take over from the screen, and I'll see if anyone has any questions. There's any questions in the group? No questions yet. Right. So Jean-Michel, I'll let you share your screen, and then if you want, or do you want me to keep going on my screen?
Wait, I think you can keep going here, but I put these slides in the middle here, Tim, because I want to remind people, I know you're really good at it. I'm sure you can tell us some great stories about it. But we are so focused on looking for ICP, and we forget about the power of strategic partnerships, right? Because if you partner with a company or a member that a party that is already servicing or connected to a large number of your ideal clients, this is your fastest path to a much higher volume of business much quicker, right? So I just want to remind people of that, because we're always looking. Oh, I'm looking for my best client, my best client, my best client. But strategic partners are very, very powerful as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of these networking groups that I would go to early in my career, and they were always valuable because it taught you public speaking. You got to refine your sales pitch, but like my customers were never there. So I started meeting with 3 or 4 other guys that were selling to my ideal customer profile, but we were selling complementary services, right? So in the case of Ed sells email. He has a certain ICP. Jean-Michel has a certain ICP. I have a certain ICP. And our ICPs in general are pretty similar, right? Like they might go after different stuff than I am, but from my main ICP, it's their main ICP. So find those partners that complement that you can bring in. And this goes back to my earlier comment about Intel. So if I know Amazon is targeting an account and they have some different perspective of their meetings and what's important to the customer, that's going to have me be better prepared when I go and cold outreach to those customers.
And also it feeds on the fact that a recommendation or a referral is so much more powerful than trying to sell yourself to someone that doesn't know you, right?
Yep.
So this is why when we cross promote each other's services, it's a lot more effective, because we don't look like we are promoting the heck out of our offer, right? Of what we do out of desperation and spam the heck out of everybody else, right?
Yep.
So very, very powerful.
Yeah, when you're using LinkedIn or an email campaign or a newsletter, I send these things out once a week, and I get 3 or 4 people that are like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about this thing that we were talking about," or "Here's an opportunity for you. Here's a lead." All of those touch points, you're sending value added content out, but in their mind, if they have an opportunity for you, you're staying on top of mind by sending value added content. I'm not even asking for referrals or leads. I'm just staying on top of mind by sending valuable content out.
Right.
So for me, I was using a different sequence of, called the Gogi sequence, but a couple of years ago, I started using what we call the Justin Michael method. So I had read his book, Tech Powered Sales, years ago and never really thought much about it. And then started using a Gogi, and then started pivoting, based on my data that it was just really a lot of people were doing it, and I wasn't getting the traction that I was expecting. So the way I use the sequence is they have a triple, so you do 3 different outreach points. So in my mind, it's LinkedIn, email, call. It could be, Ed may say go email first, other people may call first. Jeremy, who's the gifting guy, will say, you should start with a gift. But the goal here is to have an omni-channel, 3 different methods to approach. So for me, I don't want to connect and pitch. So I generally follow someone. I leave them a voicemail. I let them know that I'm going to be sending an email, and then I send an email. If I'm automating this with different tools, I use follow on LinkedIn, then I send an email, and then I drop a voicemail. So now I can do that first triple all automated without me even having to get engaged to it. The second, I know people have opinions on this, but it still works, is thoughts. And then the third that I use is I do a call. Then I send an in-mail, because I am trying to sell them and I don't want to be connecting and pitching them. So I'll send them an in-mail, which people usually respect as a more likely of a sales email than a connect and instantly pitch somebody. And then I send a Venn diagram. So for anyone that's not in engineering, it's just a couple of different circles usually, and there's intersections So I'll send that to give them a visual of what, what my thought process is when I send that. So when I call someone, using this method, I might ask like, who's in charge of revenue? How's it working out for you? And pause. Let them get uncomfortable to the point where they start talking. And then if they say that they have a current vendor, then just say, hey, that's great. What if you bolt me on to enhance that? Right. So if I'm cold calling about doing SDR as a service, I'm going to call and say, well, yeah, that's great. Your sales team are cold calling, but what could you use more, leads, right? Unless they're completely slammed and they don't have more time to leads, like I can still bolt onto that. Right. Or, in the clouds example, a lot of clients are in Amazon. Well, are they solely a sole source single cloud provider? Probably not. So how do you bolt on another cloud provider? And this has been very effective when I was at Oracle and just saying, look, I get that Amazon's your primary cloud, but hey, I'm selling cloud for Oracle workloads. Can I just get the Oracle workloads? And more often than not, I could get the Oracle workloads. And then this is the voicemail script, because most of the time your first call, you're probably getting voicemail. And I'm just telling them who I am. And I'm telling them the company, my phone number, and then what my, where I add value to them. And I'm giving them references, right? So it's really important to have social proof, but also in your voicemails and your email, like well-known companies or referenceable companies that they don't know, but what are the quantified outcomes? It's not just I gave them more revenue, like what percentage of more revenue or whatever the goal, it's got to be a metric. And then you hang up and that they're never gonna return your voicemail. It's just an added touch point. And then I follow up with an email. Now, most executives are going to see the voicemail turn into text, and then they'll see your email. So now you're getting in front of them multiple times.
So here, Tim, yeah, you and I were advocating a variation of the Agogi sequence in our workshops the last couple of years, and it's a more gentle approach. Of course, again, you can not everybody's comfortable with the phone. You're the king of cold calling, so you're great at it, but a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. I know I am. Okay, actually, I try to stay away from the phone. But this is so. Can you tell us a little bit about why you finding the Michael's method working better for you right now compared to the Agogi, and what are the advantages of each one?
Yeah, so I think from a high level here, you're gonna touch your audience like 9 times within 3 days potentially, right? If you do a triple, triple, triple.
Right.
So if you're cold calling a C-level executive, you may hit them 9 times and then leave them alone for a month. And then for the lower level executives or decision makers, you may do this multiple times within a given month, right? Something more similar to a Agogi. And then you may swap them out. So say like you're targeting a small to medium business and you've got thousands of prospects. Well, you can do this in 1 month and just go after these guys and then bring in a whole new list the next month. But what's hard is the Agogi, everyone knows the sequence and it gets really repetitive, or is like when I get spammy emails, I just say remove, and then I get pissed off the next time they don't remove me. So this is giving you a much different feel because no one's really doing this at scale. And so it's really customized to you as the audience. And in LinkedIn, you can do this by picking the industry and picking the role or the title. So you can make this feel like it's really custom to them and do it at scale. Or you can do, some of the stuff Jean-Michel's doing around custom messaging with AI. And it just feels more personable. And you're not doing, email, email, email. You're doing LinkedIn follow. You're doing an email. You might send a connection request. So even on my event today, I sent an email to people. I sent emails. People look at my profiles, never signed up for the event. I just sent them a connection request. That was it. Now they're getting my content. Even if they had no interest in joining the webinar and they looked at my profile over the last month and didn't do anything with it, now I'm connected to them and now they can see my content. So now I have a way to engage with them passively without feeling like I'm really overburdening them. So for me, this just feels like a lot. And then the last thing I don't like about Agogi is the breakup email. You don't want to break up your prospects. You want to nurture your prospects. Only 3% of your prospects are really ready to buy what you're offering them. So why are you every month or whatever breaking up with all of these prospects? You really want to put them into a nurturing campaign, like connect them on LinkedIn, pushing content out, engaging them on webinars, doing virtual roundtables, and I'll give you an example. Last week, I ran into a manager who had never responded to anything I'd sent him. And he's like, oh my God, Tim Dodd, I see you everywhere. Has never once taken a phone call with me, but because I'm engaged on LinkedIn, I'm sending him my newsletter, I'm reaching out to him with things that are relevant to him and his team. He knew exactly who I was when I walked up to him. And this happened on a previous call where I was on a call with a sales rep, and the manager was like, you need to spend more time with Tim, even though he had no idea who I was. But they're getting valuable content for me. They know that I'm supporting them and their teams. And so when I first talk to these managers, they're all on Team Tim. So the breakup email is like the death to your prospects. They're not likely to buy unless they're that 3%. Don't send breakup emails.
No, I agree with you. And what you're doing, Tim, is basically, you are leveraging your leadership expert status by being visible, creating great content, sharing great content, and then eventually people notice you and know you. But I agree with you with the breakup email. So I never do them. Also, last year I tried something that was pretty fun and actually worked really good to re-engage people. I used a numerous breakup email to tell people, have you seen this man? And then I have that, because I'm the LinkedIn rocket scientist. I have that alien sheep, just gobbling somebody from the ground, and it says, last I heard you were chased by aliens. And then I put those, have you seen this man poster around town? And then the image was personalized with their face, with a headshot from LinkedIn and their name, and everybody opened that one. So that was, I got them back on the, and then I got a lot of answers from that. So, but I agree with you. Yeah, I shouldn't do a breakup email per se.
Yeah, and usually like I had a guy that I was trying to get a hold of, and I just sent him some value added content, and then he finally booked a meeting with me. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to get back to you last time. I'm busy." Right. So, and a lot of your deals, when you're kind of middle of the funnel, or even if you're the bottom of the funnel where you think that they're going to go cold, I've gotten feedback like, "Hey, I was sick, or I was on vacation, or whatever the case may be." Like, you don't really know where
Exactly.
these people are. And so for me, I just tend to, follow up with value add versus like trying to break up with them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And you don't want to give up on people, because there's always something going on, Yeah, and we all have hardships and stories to tell. So yeah, it's better not to. So don't take it personally, right? Oh, this person ignores me now. They have other things going on in their life too. That's okay.
Yeah. So the biggest message that I want everyone to know is do not connect and pitch people. That's big no-no on LinkedIn. You're not gonna, even if you try to sell this person 5 years from now, that connect and pitch is going to be stuck in their inbox. So all future engagement with them will always have that as the start of your conversation. So what I found works, especially now with the algorithm not giving everyone as much impressions and engagement, is commenting. So there's a couple of different comments that work. One is the support comment. So like today I posted about this, and Jean-Michel, hey, I'm really excited, support you. All right, looking forward to being on the events. Those support comments work, or if people are looking for a new job, right? Like, hey, I want to comment for reach. like any type of support, I think goes a long way. Another one is a call out comment. So Jean-Michel writes a really good post. I find something insightful in the post. I call out the insight. Wow, that was really valuable. And this specifically is what was valuable. The third is an expansion comment. So maybe Jean-Michel talks about, hey, this is what I'm finding is working with the algorithm today. And I expand on that and say, well, here's some additional things that are working with the algorithm. So you're expanding on his initial thing.
And that's Tim, that's a huge strategy to showcase your expert status, and there's always add value and some new ideas to the comments. That's very valuable. And that's how you get on people's radar.
Yep. And then for me, I use the comedy comment. So maybe I just want to interact with that person, but I don't have anything valuable to say. So I've used the comedy comments a lot just to stay engaged. So the advantage is like if you make a comment on their post or you send them a note, like Jean-Michel does these happy birthday notes, then the algorithm sees that you're interacting with that person and they're more likely to see your content. So I still try to do the comedy comments to stay engaged on people that I want to stay engaged with.
And that's a very important point here, a very powerful point, Tim, because people are always confused about, we have a tendency to compartmentalize everything, right? It says, okay, I'm SEO optimizing my profiles, one thing. I am developing content, that's another thing. I'm engaging with my connection, that's another thing. The truth is, all of this put together contributes to creating more reach and engagement for your post. For example, most people don't know this unless you have achieved an all-star LinkedIn profile status. LinkedIn is not going to push your post as far as it would if you were an all-star status. And right now, LinkedIn is looking for at least 7 well-developed LinkedIn work experience sections. So the game has changed, right? The other thing too, as you know, things have changed in the past year, of course, but still a third of the content in your feed is content from your first level connection. A third is actually a promoted LinkedIn company pages, post and LinkedIn ads. And the other third, LinkedIn is pushing basically influencers post, creator influencers post, people who post a lot, basically.
Awesome.
So if you don't engage with your first level connection regularly, guess what? Your posts are not going to be, LinkedIn is not going to distribute your post as much. So I'll show a slide later about how we leverage congratulation messages to stay engaged with your connection in a natural way without being salesy or spammy.
And the last one is controversial, but I promise you, this is the best of the comments. So if you take someone like Ed, who has a lot of influence in email, and his ideal customer profile is your ideal customer profile. So what you do is you have one of your posts or a really thought out comment, like in long form comments, ready to go. And when he posts something interesting, then you comment on there and put a full length post on there. So the advantage is maybe someone says, like, I need an email expert. And so I follow Ed because Ed's really, really smart. But I can't afford Ed. So I need Ed Light. I need a less costly version of Ed. So a lot of these early on creators that are getting their stuff going are going to the big content creators. Like if you're doing sales coaching, you might comment on Tony Robbins' post. And then you're going to get the people that can't afford Tony Robbins. And this is a really, really good trick. And I've used this when I was at other less big, expensive hosting companies, but we would still beat you on like quality, but I could go in and start commenting on competitors and get business from that. The other thing you can do is if you follow these really big creators, get in there early on and comment first in a big post like this, and then everyone's going to see a lot of value and they're going to like your post, they're going to comment on it, they're going to reply to it, they're going to love it, whatever. And then LinkedIn will keep you at the top of their thing. So these guys that are getting 1,000 likes, you might be the top comment on there and you're driving their audience to you. And I know it's controversial, but it will get you value.
Well, no, I totally agree with you here, Tim. And so here we're leveraging two different things. We're leveraging cross promotion, so it feels natural. And so you're exposing your audience to that other experts that you have a partnership with, right? And number two, you're leveraging influencers as well. So when you tag an influencer in a comment, and then they engage with your post, they basically bring a large fraction of their own followers, their own connection into the mix, right? And maybe we'll have time to show an example of a viral post that you and I created a year and a half ago or so. But so no, this is very good.
Awesome. So, and this is, things that I've also learned from Jean-Michel. So you want to validate what you're saying, use first names. So, just, you can go and like backspace out, their last name, and you want to reciprocate. So I get a lot of people that comment on my posts that are not my ideal customer, or they're friends of mine, or they're early on in their journey. And I go in and comment on their post. I'm not going to get any business from it, but that is really valuable. And then I have a gift that I use a lot, and so I'm known for that gift. A lot of people are like, "Oh my God, you love Mandalorian from Star Wars." I'm like, it's not that I love Mandalorian. It's just the phrase "this is the way" is so relevant to your comment that's why I posted it. So I've got a handful of gifts that are saved in my LinkedIn that I can very quickly on my mobile phone go in and reply to people. But then I've gotten branded and known for that specific gift. But let LinkedIn be a little fun. Like same with the humor comments. So you don't have to be stiff on LinkedIn. You can add some personality into that.
And it's cool too, because everything's about business and seriousness. So we're all humans, and humor is always the best medicine. So use more humor, fun GIF, and also those GIF are more visible in the comments that post. So you create more visibility for yourself as well.
Now, Frank is saying that the last name gets auto-populated, so that's...
Yeah, it's just changed. You're correct, Frank. It's just changed recently. Let me take over here from here,
Sure.
maybe. Let me share my screen here.
Sure.
So yeah, unfortunately, we can't really personalize the first name or anything like this here, but that is the way it is. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. So we're talking about, I know you guys, we tricked you into this webinar by talking about AI, right? Just kidding. So, but the truth is, we're going to talk a little more about AI as well now to leverage it. But this is one of my clients' marketing agency's post of last week. So she got pretty upset because she's got great content. She gets thousands of impressions with her post, and then this is what happened to her post last week. So if you read those, right, you can see that they're all AI generated and they all have 90% same content, right? And so yes, there are great AI auto commenting apps for your post, but commenting on somebody's post is not the place to use AI. Why? Because number one, you're going to look like an idiot. And that's just the beginning, guys, right? So with AI evolution, more and more people are using tools and AI and stuff. We're going to see a lot more of that. And so number one, you're going to look like an idiot. And number two, you're certainly not building your leadership expert status on LinkedIn, right? Because all you're doing is regurgitating what the poster wrote, or a piece of what they wrote. You're not adding any value, right? So please don't do that. Okay, so please don't do that. You can see it's not worth it, right? So there's a place for AI and there's a place not to use AI. So this is one. This is a great little fun cartoon that I use on the subject when I engage people on the subject. You know, good news, we're getting lots of engagement on our AI-generated content. Yay! Okay, they say, what's the bad news? The bad news, all that engagement is coming from AI traffic. Okay, so now we have AI talking to AI, and who is generating business? Nobody, right? So, okay, just wanted to add a little humor for you guys, but it's really true, right? So don't do that. Okay. Now, what I want to show you is I want to show you a smart LinkedIn app. It's French, by the way. The French have developed a lot of great marketing apps in the past few years, particularly for LinkedIn. And with this app, I'm actually going to demonstrate it. It's easier for you, but basically, I can with the press of a button create a new contact from LinkedIn into my CRM, and it's data rich. I'll show you an example. You know, and then you can of course connect email and phone number discovery apps. So it's great for Tim, right? Because he loves to talk on the phone with people cold. And you know, you can add notes and reminders on your calendar directly from their LinkedIn profile. So I call it smart prospecting on LinkedIn because I can do a lot of actions, use my brain, my human brain, not my AI brain, to take actions very quickly without leaving LinkedIn, right? So I'm going to demonstrate that to you very quickly, guys. It's pretty cool. So let me grab, so here's a new client here, a potential new client. So you see I'm on somebody's profile here, right? So she just booked my calendar actually for last week. So you see I have specialized button here. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm gonna add her as a contact. I'm just pressing a button, okay? So what's happening now is, now it works with a number of CRMs. Personally, right now I'm using Pipedrive. You know, every couple of years I change CRMs. You can use HubSpot, SalesLoft, etc. If the CRM you use is not directly managed by the app, no problem. You know, create a free HubSpot CRM with 1 million of contact, and then synchronize the app with HubSpot and synchronize HubSpot with your paying CRM if you want, right? With webhooks or Zapier, whatever you want. So you see what's happening here now. The app has discovered a phone number, email address. I could actually email her directly from here if I wanted with my Gmail account. I can label her directly here. So if I label her a certain way, I can activate an email campaign for her directly in my CRM if I want to. Okay, pretty cool, right? I can add a note. That note will appear in my CRM, right? So Miriam is a great gal. I'm just giving you some ideas of what you can do here, right? I'm sorry, Zoom is in the way, so now I've just got to navigate all of this here a little bit better. Okay, Zoom. Oh, I'm trying to get out of this note now. Okay. Well, that's so much for the demo, right? Okay. All right. And then I can also add a task on my calendar, a reminder to follow up with her with a call phone call 3 days from now. Okay. And then it will populate my calendar. But what I want you to, I want to show you what just happened here, right? So I pressed a couple of buttons, guys. So I've made an informed decision. So you can see here, I've got a full name. I've got 2 emails, one from LinkedIn, one discovered. I've got a LinkedIn profile URL, a whole LinkedIn headline, a whole LinkedIn summary has been copied, as well as a LinkedIn skills. Now, why is that important, guys? So if you're familiar with newsletter lists, right? Ed, you can tell everybody about how to build a list very quickly, right? With email. So the problem with an email list, right, Well, guess what? You've got a name, a first name if you're lucky, a last name, and an email address. Actually, you know nothing about the person. How are you going to segment them properly to follow up with them appropriately, right? You can see how different it is now. Now in my CRM, I have about 15,000 data-rich contacts. And that's the beauty of working off LinkedIn, of course, right? Because there's so much information people are sharing on LinkedIn about what they do, their specialties, their expertise, even their hobbies, right? The cause they support. So I can very quickly build a list of my CRM. For example, I may look for speakers and authors and put them into a campaign. I can do a very quick search in my CRM for author search and speaker keyword search in any of those placeholders, and I can build a list of 450 speakers and authors in 30 seconds. Okay, and then guess what? Now I can put them into an email campaign, and I could put them into a LinkedIn campaign. Pretty cool, right? So just want you to know that this is as salespeople, this is going to save you a lot of time. Now there's something else that's pretty cool about it. Okay, I can also message that person directly, and I will have here access to pre-recorded message templates, but actually I prefer to use a different app for that. Okay, so I prefer to use a different app, which is called Magical. Okay, so with so here I have 50, I have probably 50 different template messages recorded. Okay, I can select a message that I want to use. The system is going to fill up placeholders, a first name, a company name, automatically from LinkedIn or Gmail. So it works in Gmail as well. I can use pre-recorded messages in Gmail to communicate with people very quickly, or on LinkedIn, right? So I can select Miriam here, okay, and then insert the message. And then, of course, I'm going to personalize the message for her based on what I saw on LinkedIn. But you can see I can follow up with people very, very quickly, right? Super cool.
So this is like super important, because I feel like if you're automating this with AI and you're at least sanity checking the comments, then it works really, really well on your commenting strategy or on your messaging. Where I think the AI tools fall apart is if they start automating it and you don't have a chance to proofread before that message goes out.
That's true. So you have to be careful. So here, of course, we're using this for manual, personalization and manual outreach to people once you catch them, right? Actually, let me share, if you guys are interested, I'm going to share those apps with you in the chat. I'm sorry. Awesome panelists. I don't know why we don't have access to the chat to everyone here. That's interesting. Okay. And then we'll send that to you in a follow-up email for you guys. But let me get back to this here. So I want to show you what this app has done for me in the past year. Okay. So this is how much time I have saved the past year. So, I have connected with 1,500 potential leads, sent 2,400 messages with the app that have been synchronized with my CRM. By the way, all the LinkedIn messages as well as emails exchanged with that contact are synchronized in my CRM. So of course, before I talk to someone, I can review all our exchanges, their LinkedIn profile, their company very quickly. So I'm armed with information when I talk to them, right? And reach about 1,200 emails and use 1,200 pre-registered messages. Saved me 1,000 hours last year, guy. So, so that's definitely a powerful app to use. We have a little more time, Tim, to talk about my most trusted network app.
I trust that you'll get it done in 30 minutes.
Oh yes, no, I'm gonna go very quickly here because I'm putting you on the spot with this one. So I want to tell you about another app that connects to ChatGPT. Okay, but I'm really interested in this app for you to help build a relationship with your ideal clients and buyers by delivering tremendous value as part of your social selling strategy, right? You want to help people be better on LinkedIn. And so you think of it as sharing it as a value piece without selling anything, right? So Scott Candle developed that app. You know, he's unhappy with LinkedIn, and so he's creating a sub network within LinkedIn of trusted people, you know, to avoid the spammers, the fake LinkedIn accounts, etc. So he and I disagree on that. I still think LinkedIn is the most powerful database to leverage on the planet right now because there's so much information. But so you can see here, this is a message I could send to team, right, to share that app with it, right? So what I love most about the app is that it will create a personality profile for you about the person you want to communicate with. That's pretty cool, right? So if you are a good salesperson and you understand the personality of the person you're going to be talking to, you're going to talk to them differently, right? And so there is the app here. So this is what it looks like when I'm on Team's LinkedIn profile and I bring the app. You can see I have a choice to get deep insight into Team's personality, right? So let's see what happens when I click that button. So number one, the app is connected to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is going to read Team's profile and create a summary of what Team does. What do you think, Tim? Is that pretty accurate?
Well, let's try because I don't think you've done this on my new profile. So let's see what.
So you've changed the profile. So that was last year, right? When we played around with that. But you know, it looks pretty cool. It's still representative of what you do. It's pretty impressive, right? So it gives me a summary of who you are very quickly and the things I should mention to praise you when I engage you, right? And it's part of social selling, right? Mention something of importance about the person you want to connect with, because we're humans. We want to be loved. We want to be noticed, right? So human need. So don't start talking about yourself. Talk about your target, your target buyer first. Okay, mention something they're doing well. Praise them on some things they're doing well. So you got a quick summary of some things to mention, and then you can ask ChatGPT to write. So the personality summary here now, is showing you what team is like as a person. Okay, so your high D, right, and low S on the disk profile. I think that seems about right.
Yeah.
ENTJ on the MBTI profile. So if you guys are comfortable, type A, the challenger, type 3 is the achiever. Knowing team, I think it's pretty much in line. And then you can ask ChatGPT to write a message for you based on team's profile and his personality profile as well, right? So here's an example here. Here's an example of ChatGPT prompt you can use for the app. So what I'm doing here is that number one, I can use the app to learn about the person and get me started on engaging them the right way. But I can also share the app as a tremendous value piece to build a relationship with someone, right? That's what I'm recommending you do, even if you don't use the app, okay? So you can see as an example of a ChatGPT prompt using specific information on Team's profile, write a LinkedIn message to praise his expertise, invite him to a private executive roundtable, for example, right? And then you can specify the style if you want. So here's what happened here, guys, just for fun, right? So yeah, you can definitely recognize the all Englishman style, right? I must commend you on your exceptional expertise in modern sales and technology. I would like to extend to you an invitation to a private executive roundtable to share insights, exchange ideas. So you guys have fun with that. And of course, you know, then you can refine that, personalize it more if you like. Okay. So what do you think, Tim? Would you be responsive to an old Englishman's message to join their roundtable?
Only an old Frenchman. But this roundtable, I'm telling everyone on this call, this is gold. You're allowing them to network with their peers. You're not selling them anything. It's a discovery session for you. It is the most underrated thing happening.
That's a very powerful strategy, and we have leveraged it very successfully for many clients. You know, I have 2 clients right now actually that started doing it, and you know, they're getting 8 to 12 people on board, and that's enough. You don't want too many of them. But basically, you're feeding on the ego of the person too, because you know you are tagging them as an expert on a certain subject, and you're inviting them to participate. So like Tim said, it's a great way to get to know each other, you know, and get eventually into business conversation. So very, very powerful without being salesy again. Okay. What else do we have here? We've got backup slides. Okay, so I know, Tim, you mentioned I want to keep talking until somebody shuts me off.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions? We can definitely talk about.
Okay, but then we'll introduce the next webinar on Wednesday, where I'll be doing more of the talking. Even so you guys are going to get sick and tired of me. But a team you mentioned earlier, you know, is one of the strategy we use very effectively for our clients, and I use it for myself. You know, so there's 2 strategies I use in my own business. I really have no outbound active campaigns in my business, but I leverage very effective SEO optimization of my LinkedIn profile and LinkedIn company pages, and I leverage this strategy along with endorsing my connection skills regularly. And I do this at scales, of course. We have, you know, we've developed tools to do a lot of that stuff. But basically, this is an example of a client of mine with 10,000 connection. And you can see that, so with a network of this size, it translates into about 900 congratulation messages a month to their first level connection. So why is that powerful? It's powerful, number one, because you can use, you know, number one, you're congratulating on their special event, right? You're not selling them anything. You can offer them a special gift for their birthday if you want, a fun little cartoon. It's a great way to stay in touch. We get a lot of replies back from that.
Yeah, remember, so when people 3% of your population at any given time is ready to buy from you. So stop sending breakup emails and send happy anniversary, happy birthday, congrats on the new role. And when they become in that 3%, now they're your bottom of your funnel.
Exactly. So this is an opportunity basically to re-engage in a natural way anybody in your LinkedIn network 4 or 5 times a year, right? Because people have several work anniversaries typically. So they're high level buyers you're targeting. And the advantage too is that now when you post, all those people you've engaged in the past month will see your post. So you can see it's not just doing one thing that's going to make you successful on LinkedIn. To create more visibility for you and more engagement for your post, it's a combination of things, right? So we want to let you know, I get about 1/3 of my clients from that strategy alone. Because the same thing, right? So I connected 3 months ago with someone. They're not ready to work with me. They are shopping around. That's okay. I encourage them to do so. And then this week they have a birthday. Bang, it's a natural touch point again. They're reminded of me, and then they say, hey, Jean-Michel, thank you. By the way, can we have a call again? I know. Or can we talk again? And then we are in a business conversation again. Very simple, right? So pretty cool stuff, right? All right, so I could keep going. Let me see. No, I think we need to stop here. probably,
Mhm.
Tim. And I
Yeah,
don't know if we have any questions yet.
if there's any questions. I know iPhone, I don't know who you are, but the other people, we'll reach out. Would love your feedback. Any other questions that we didn't answer. But we are going to do this on Wednesday, same time, and then Friday, Ed will be a little more vocal and opinionated and correct every incorrect thing we said over the first 2 days. So that should be great.
And then,
I'm
yeah, so
full
just
agreement with everything you said.
Everyone's going to love to talk about email on Friday because all their email strategies are starting to not work now.
yeah. So just to remind everybody, so we're going to be bothering you again on Wednesday, same time, the 6th of March. We're going to send you the replay tomorrow. This will be the same Zoom webinar link to join on Wednesday, and we have updated the LinkedIn event already. And I'll be spending a little bit more time on Wednesday to talk about, again, harnessing LinkedIn buyer intent and hyper targeting with warmer leads from different sources on LinkedIn. We'll talk about master smart navigator searches, trigger events. I'm sure you guys are familiar with trigger events. LinkedIn has changed tremendously in the past year, and the LinkedIn Sales Navigator CRM now has become smarter and more powerful for salespeople, right? Because it's going to tell you what's happening with your target audience if you set them properly in your Sales Navigator account. We're going to talk about, again, more AI to make sure you come back and talk to us and listen to us. So how to use automation for hyper personalization at scale. Maybe we'll review a 30-minute daily routine for LinkedIn success and social selling. And then Friday, of course, we're going to have our in-house email experts, Ed, who's going to reassure and everybody, hopefully, about email marketing for March, and probably put us to work as well. And we have Jeremy also, right, Tim?
Yeah, so he'll
Jeremy's
talk
gonna
about
talk-
gifting, which will be completely offline, but also very eye-opening in my experience.
Yeah, it's very, very unique and an unused strategy to secure great, very high ticket business for sure. And then we'll talk a little bit about LinkedIn events and why you should consider running your LinkedIn events if we have time, if I don't run overboard again. And that's and I was talking to a client in Silicon Valley last week, and he was telling me, Jean-Michel, I'm so busy, I don't have time to build a relationship with my ideal buyers. And of course, she closed 100K to $500,000 deals, right? So she says, well, if you don't have time to do that, and because you're so busy, you should put yourself in front of your audience and start doing webinars and events. So you for an hour or 2 hours of your time, you can expose your personality, your expertise to a large audience in a short period of time, right? So that's what we're talking about here, right?
So I appreciate everyone joining, and feel free to reach out in the meantime, and hopefully you all get some value out of it.
Yeah, well, so thanks for having us, team, today. Excited, guys. Feel free to connect with us one-on-one, and we're happy to accept you in our highly targeted networks. And I'll see you all on Wednesday, same time.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.